What's everyone? What's up, everyone? Welcome to Get Lifted Podcast. This is Recovery John. I'm excited today to speak with Kellee. We have here Kellee. How we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Excited to chat. Another TikTok friend. Post a lot of good content, and someone that's been along my journey here on TikTok. And I'm excited to chat. So let's start with what's up. How you been? What's new? How's sobriety recovery going so far?
Uh, well, sobriety is great. Sobriety has brought me things into my life that I never thought I could grasp. So like college. College is something that's going on right now. Writing, doing different things like that. So life is going really good. It's just in this constant flow of forward motion. Yeah.
Good. Love it. Love it. So let's let everyone in on who you are a little. We could touch on addiction quick, your sobriety date, and maybe touch on, an overpass of what addiction was like for you.
Okay. So as I said before, nothing is a very simple answer, so I will do my best to get it all in there. My name is Kellee. I'm a recovering addict. My drug of choice was meth. I definitely dabbled with some cocaine and some other stuff in there too, but meth was the one that took me down. My sober date is September 9th, or I'm sorry, September 10th of 2020. Um, and it's really crazy because that's also the anniversary my dad passed away. So I feel like maybe he gave his life so that I'd have this chance later on. It's just like this weird whatever that I hold on to. Like he was looking out. Um, and yeah, addiction probably started before I was actually active in it. For me, my addiction was numbing out pain, numbing out experiences, numbing out trauma. Um, and my trauma started right off the bat, straight from birth, right? Um, I grew up very chaotic. I was in abusive homes, and then that just transitioned to, oh, you're 21, now you can drink, right? And drinking was never my strong suit. I just wasn't good at it. I was either crying or I was trying to fight somebody. There was not really an in between. I was fun until it wasn't fun anymore. And I just, it didn't make me feel good, so I didn't like it. And alcohol quickly snowballed into cocaine, right? And then it became, well, I can't drink if I don't have cocaine because I can't control how fucked up I am.
Mm.
And this mindset of like just stuffing everything down quickly led to making really stupid choices. And one of those stupid choices was a life altering accident where I like broke my spine in two places. I tore my spinal cord. I broke my skull. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And then the day I got discharged, I became homeless. So this was like the root setting. I had already been dabbling with the cocaine and the alcohol, right? But now I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm in survival mode. I'm in a cast and I'm not supposed to like lift more than a milk jug. Um, so very quickly it was everything's going to be fun and it's going to be fine and I'm going to keep stuffing. And in that stuffing, I started hanging out with friends who were like, hey, let's go smoke some weed. But it wasn't weed, it was a meth pipe, right? And
Mm.
so instead of going to smoke weed, I was like, all right, sure, let me hit that. And meth took off just like that. It was uh, a very aggressive, progressive um, experience. It was fun for what felt like maybe a month. And right off the bat, it was me using it, smoking it every single day. It was losing relationships and trying to hold on to relationships that did not serve my highest purpose, which of course caused more pain that I wanted to stuff down. And the more that I lost, the more that I wanted to stuff. So by the end of it, sorry, I'm kind of jumping, but by the end of it, I was like in a public park bathroom, sleeping on the floor with a needle in my arm. Like
Wow.
that, it got bad. and it wasn't going to get better unless I was dead or in jail or, whatever. But yeah, that's the rough gist. I don't know if you want me to dig into any part. I can.
That's a great part to start. No, I mean, I relate so much to how you talked about it's funny that, not funny, but we laugh about these things now, that the correlation, like my jump off was the same, trying to numb early traumas, got into alcohol, marijuana, and then it's kind of interesting to me to talk about, that it just depends on your surroundings, how you can end up in anything. Like, sure, I ended up an opiate addict, you ended up a meth addict, but it's that same root, from the teenage years that brought us into, oh wow, I could numb it with alcohol and this and weed, and that became for you alcohol and coke, and that's kind of the gateway drug. And then, I found opiates, you found meth, and it's amazing
Right.
how we both end up in the same place, just a different substance, but with the
Yeah.
same start.
Yeah. And nobody was looking out too. Nobody was like, here's how you should process your emotions. And hey, by the way, like that's going to haunt you in the long run. Nobody was doing that. In fact, like my experience, my family were very, it's okay. Do what you got to do. And I'm not saying they were like necessarily handing me a meth pipe. Well, granted, that did kind of happen, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's hard when you have to unravel what you know, which is the stuffing, and then realizing that's not working. And so you have to figure out what is going to serve you and learning how to let that stuff go. But yeah,
I think it's so interesting that what you said about. I think people need to hear that, because we don't. I think one of the first lines in my book is like, I never woke up, and no one does, saying, I can't wait to, instead of a Yankee, I want to become an addict. We just end up there without having the proper coping tools, and that's why I started this podcast, is to, one, bring light to the awareness of addiction and kill the stigma of it. Excuse me, but to also, touch on coping skills, tools, lessons we've learned, 12-step therapist, fitness, whatever it may be. And one thing I really want to talk about that you spoke about is the not being fun anymore. Because another thing, a lot of people that aren't addicts listen to this and also talk to me. And I think from outside looking in, you think the person's just like having fun. And it's like,
yeah,
a lot of times that's when we get sober. It's like, I'm doing this for 7 years and it hasn't been fun for 7 years. It was fun for the first year, month, or a couple weeks.
yeah. And now
Um,
you've lost everything. Now you're wondering what the fuck to do. Now you think every moment is gonna be the other shoe dropping, and you didn't think it could get worse, but it does. It will get worse until you learn that lesson, until you choose to do different.
exactly. And I think it's cool to talk about, though, that you started from, the good parts of sobriety and addiction. Going from, like you said, a needle in your arm, laying on the floor in a public bathroom. You're in school now. You're doing other good things. So let's talk about what's getting sober, getting into recovery looked like for you. Like the first steps, first calls you made. Did you go to detox rehab? Did you try 12 steps at first?
Okay, so I feel, and everyone's probably gonna say this, my recovery looks so different than others. Maybe it does, maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't. Um, I I got pregnant. I was homeless and I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant. I was like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do? Right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm homeless. Like I said, I'm sleeping on the public park bathroom. I'm staying in my storage unit. I'm fucking homeless. And my plan was to have an abortion because like if I can't take care of myself, how the fuck am I gonna take care of a kid, right?
Mm.
But that didn't work because of course with my addiction and losing everything, one of those things was my license and a car. Um, And so I, not listening to not having a license, was still getting access to cars and I was still driving around, which led to going to jail and, like different things like that. Um, when I say this portion, it just speedballs in the sense where it was like I got arrested, and I think less than a week later I got arrested again, and less than another week, like that same week, I got arrested the third time. And that was it. That was it. I was like, I fucking hate this. I just found out I was pregnant. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. Um, so I went to my court dates. I got assigned to do like one of those drug evaluations or whatever. And the drug evaluation was like, you definitely need some outpatient. So that was part of my court order. Now, mind you, COVID is just starting. We're like just starting the lockdown process. And I'm trying to like figure out where am I going to go. I went to a pregnant women's shelter out in Minnesota because I'm in Minnesota at this time. And I got kicked out because I chose drugs. Um, and in this time, I'm like in contact with my mother, and we have an estranged relationship because she lost custody of me as a child. So I don't know why in my active brain I'm thinking that my mom is the one who's going to save me,
Mm.
but I thought she was because I was like, well, she got clean and she has a son and she's going to college, so if she can do it, so can I. So she gets me to California to live with her. And right right off the bat, I realized my mom is not sober. I thought she had been, but she's not. Um, and all of the things that I thought she was doing was really just a lie. And of
So,
course, with our relationship, there was pain and stuff. So this ended up like me trying to talk about it, trying to communicate with her, and instead it would literally like we got into a fist fight. My last time seeing my mom, we fist fought. And I had my 7 month old or my 4 month old son there. Sorry, I don't know why it was 7 month, but anyway, it was very chaotic. And in this moment, still not deciding that I'm gonna like do AA or NA. I didn't know about any of this stuff. I'm just trying to be not high on meth as I'm realizing my mom is constantly high on meth around me. Um, and I'm starting to feel like, well, I want to drink and I want to do these things, but I'm not going to use meth, so it's going to be fine. And in the time that I had lived with my mom, looking for this stability, I ended up relapsing because she had been up on a bender for a couple of days. And when she went out, I had been drinking some tequila and I decided I'm just going to go to her shed. And she had a perfect little bubble, all packed, ready to go. It was clean and everything, right? And I
mm,
took 3 hits off of it. And that was the last time I had relapsed. My son was about 3 weeks old.
mm,
Um, and it was in that moment that I was like, I can't be around anybody who's using because the chances of me relapsing are way too high. I don't trust myself. So we had this falling out. I pack my son up, I get whatever I can, and I go to the next place just for a couple of days. Um, that ended up turning into pretty much the steps that I was taking. I was like, well, this is going to work without me having to go to a shelter. None of it was working. It was just progressively more chaotic, right?
mm,
Like one of the places was another guy who was getting high on meth and he's like coming out with a metal bar. Like, I heard people in your room, bitch, no, you're crazy. Like, I know what the
mm.
voices sound like too. I've been there.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm like, I have my son in this place, and no matter what I'm doing, I feel like even though I'm not using, I'm still having to deal with this chaotic life, right? And this is a point where recovery and community and finding whatever works for you is so important, and incorporating that into the beginning,
Mhm.
because had I not had any type of support, I don't know if I would be clean as long as I've been clean now. But anyway, in this chaotic, fresh mom, freshly sober, not using, figuring out life, I ended up getting a hold of 211. You call 211 if you need resources in whatever state you're in, and they can usually help you to some extent. And so
Mm,
they put me in contact with this shelter, this home light shelter that I uh, was interested in staying at. Um, and this shelter is the first time that I have found community, that somebody talked to me about AA and NA, that somebody had talked to me about like just putting these little steps in place, right?
mm,
So I get to the shelter and I don't know what to think. I'm trying to like be a mom. I'm scared shitless. I don't know who has my back. But here are these strangers who are like, hey, we're gonna like work with you. We're gonna make sure you get into therapy. We're gonna make sure you get goals set in place, and we're gonna help you break down those goals and teach you like what steps to take to make them achievable, right?
mm,
Um, so that's what I did, and I started going to NA and AA. Because that was one of the requirements. I got myself into substance abuse counseling. I didn't want to do it. I was like, do I have to commit to the whole 6 months? And they're like, well, technically you can graduate in 3. By 6 months, I was like, I still want to do this. And so after graduating, I still chose to keep meeting for the next year and a half, just to have one-on-ones and like shit like that.
Mm.
Um, I want to say just because I wasn't necessarily hitting a meeting like every single day, like doing the 90 on 90, I wasn't necessarily missing out because of the fact like I could not be using if I wanted to keep my home, right? If I wanted to stay in that shelter, I could not even use marijuana. So it was home or high. I chose home. Home was more important to me. Um, and I did enjoy being able to go to the meetings and like slowly build this community. I also didn't feel like I belonged. Um, Although I was abstinent, I always knew I had this plan on going back to marijuana. Marijuana, even though everyone was telling me, like, if you do this, you're going to relapse, it just didn't sit well with me. It didn't make sense to me. So I kept all these things in place where I was still going to an NA or an AA meeting, and I was still going to my therapist, and I was still communicating with the substance abuse counselor, like, hey, this is my plan for the future. I want to be rawly honest. Sorry, I'm getting a little lost, but yeah, that's the gist of like
Yeah.
whatever.
No, that's amazing. I think that's something to talk about is that I am big on my recovery is my recovery. I respect other people's if they ask. I tell them what worked for me, what didn't. But I'm big on the for me part. I know some people that are on Suboxone and methadone for years. I have friends that shot up heroin, and now they haven't for 7 years, but they smoke weed every day. So for me, I always say for John and no one else, it's a couple things like how free do I want to be? I was never big, and I think that's a big thing. Some people really are just weed smokers. Like my one friend that I was talking about, he still smokes. I mean, he always smoked, and he's not robbing anyone today. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
I always push people and say, do you think it slows you down a little? Or are you still your best self? And if they say yes, that's wonderful. I don't like to judge. I don't like to push people. For me, I was never that big pot smoker, so I think it's easier for me to say I don't now. Um, but also, I'm the type that I'm afraid to do anything mind altering because I get that taste, and I think I am that type of addict. Like if I have a drink, no, I don't think I'll go like do a bag of dope that night, but I might think about doing coke, or I might do 20 drinks, or if I smoke a blunt, I must smoke 10 blunts. So for me, it's not safe, but I think that's a very interesting aspect, and that's why I have people on here. I love to hear different avenues of people getting sober. Um, and I think it's important AA talks about that because obviously you're dealing with addicts, so people are real. I was real quick to be like, well, I stopped heroin, now I'm out of a drink. So it's important, important for the mass mostly of addicts to say no, don't do any mind altering substance. But I think it's important, like in your gut, if you felt safe doing that, and I mean to date you haven't gone back to smoking meth. You're in
Yeah.
school. We're gonna talk about you writing a book, so obviously things are working for you,
Yeah.
and that's
So
amazing.
I want to continuing this in a sense,
Oh no.
part of my recovery was learning that it's important to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul, right?
Hmm.
And if we're going to
Definitely.
rewind to the fact that 7 years ago I had an accident, I broke my spine in 2 places, I tore my spinal cord, I broke my, like, I have pain in my body, and that was a physical pain that I was also running from that pushed me in that crazier direction. And so, as a person with a disability and chronic pain, I think being going to my doctor who has prescribed me pain meds, even though I'm like, this doesn't work for me, and I have to come here for this, and this reason, um, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose the healthier option for me because of the fact that I do have that disposition of addiction in my
Hmm.
being, in my essence. And it was very empowering for me. Like, I never spoke in an AA meeting or an NA meeting because I was so nervous and shy. And it was on my second birthday, my sober birthday, that I went in and I was like, I've been waiting for this moment since last year. And I was like, all right, so how do I do it? And I got to tell them exactly how I do it because that was the question they asked. How do you do it? And I was rawly honest in this meeting. Granted,
Mm,
I think I got some mixed energy, but I also got people who were like shaking my hand at the end of it saying, "Thank you. Do you know that I can't tell my sponsor about this, but I also utilize it." And I think it's
mm,
not necessarily saying that the majority masses of addicts need it this one way. I think it's understanding that it is our own personal journey and not shunning anybody else for doing it differently, but also knowing what we need to do for ourselves. Like, this works for me, so I do this for me. I don't suggest anyone do it. I suggest you find out what works for you. And just letting people know that it's okay that there are other ways. Like, you're still
definitely.
loved. You're not less
I think,
valid.
yeah, and I think a big thing I want to say, because I'm not a representative of 12-step meetings or like that. It's anonymous. I can't even say which one I go to. Excuse me, but I could say I know the right answer, and maybe it's not the masses, but it is because like you can't give like everyone an open door. They'll take it. It's an addict. To tell me I could have a drink a week. I'm gonna go do it. But it's what I was explained in the 12 steps, and I think it's a stigma that people have at not going. I was just having this talk with a friend that if it has to do with a doctor, it says even in AA and NA book that like we are not doctors. Do what your doctors say. So for you, like you said, and yours is like back pain, a brain injury. Your doctor says, you don't say, hey, it's medical marijuana. Do this. There are still people, so people make mistakes, and not everyone knows the right program in the 12-step meetings. But it's like if you were my sponsee, I would say I'm not your doctor. So if your doctor said, can of recovery or smoke weed, to do that. Other people have severe anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia. They're going to have to take medications. And I always, when the sponsee comes to me, I'm always like, I'm not your doctor. I'm here to get you sober and stay alive. If you have a doctor that says you need Xanax, you need Klonopin, you need whatever narcotic, I try in my recovery. I stay away from them. But like, I'm not your doctor, so I don't deal with that. So you may need that to stay sober. I think that's good to have an open mind and I'm no one's doctor and I don't have the back injury. You know what I mean? So your situation is way different than mine. And so on and so forth. It's very important to touch on.
Right. And I don't have a needle in my arm and I'm not a
Exactly. Yeah.
whatever. So
No.
I'm
Yeah.
still paying my bills. I keep in tune with myself and how I'm feeling. I journal regularly. I do take mental health meds. I'm not going to say that I don't. I definitely take mental health meds. And God forbid, I think it's happened like one time. Um, but I am not a martyr. So if I need to take something, I absolutely will. I'm also a single mom, and that's not really permittable to like be on any type of pain med when you're the only person in charge of this little human. So again, like shit happens, but I'm always going to choose my sobriety first. And part of that is taking care of my body. So if I
No, it's
need to,
amazing.
I'm going to. I'm also going to choose the road that works best for me. So it's just transparency, you know?
Definitely. And I'm proud of you because it's shown, that you're doing the right thing and you're coming up, you know what I mean? On 4 years, right?
It'll be 4 years. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So, and all the blessings you have now. So it works. A lot of people are asking, what are hobbies? So tools, hobbies. I know you're in school, like to touch on that. If someone's listening and struggling today or just getting sober, what are some things that could keep them busy? And I know you even utilize like TikTok shop, like investing in other things and business. And I'd love for you to touch on your book as well that you're working on.
Okay, so hobbies. My biggest hobby right now is definitely school because it's probably the thing that takes up majority of my time. However, if we're talking in terms of hobbies to keep you busy for recovery purposes, I go on adventures. And when I say adventure, that could be walking to the grocery store with a wagon to go pick up my groceries, right? But I get to walk there. I get to touch every single tree from point A to point B. And when I do that, that helps me feel grounded. I'll take the bus to the beach because that's another adventure. Um, and something I've really gotten into is like my little hydroponic garden. So I will germinate seeds And then once they start to grow, I'll transplant them. So I've got, even though I live in an apartment, I've got like a little homestead thing going.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, I like the garden. I got a little tub of dirt. I keep it on my balcony, and then I just go out there and do what I gotta do, and it's great. But yeah, I do that, and then I spend time writing, and I spend time sharing little blips and pieces on social media. Originally it started because it was really healing for me to get it out. But another reason of doing it publicly was so many people in my life, my family were like, oh no, we just sweep it under the rug, keep it in the family, don't
Mm.
talk to people outside. And I hit a point in life where I was like, I'm not going to keep quiet about anything. I'm going to let it all go. And I was like, damn, this feels really good. It feels
Yeah,
really good. So I'm going to do what makes me feel good. And if releasing it publicly helps me do that, knowing I can reach people and I'm making a difference in people's lives, I'm going to keep doing that. So
that's
that's where
amazing.
yeah.
No, that's what connected us. I mean, that's how we got in connection and became friends on TikTok. And I post a lot on there. People know, and it's like it's cool to give, but then it's so cool when you receive, seeing other people and their content. Like I said, we can relate to so much to our stories are actually very similar. I didn't have the accident part, but the injury, but it's like just the way we came up. Even just daily life struggles that I post or you post, I can relate to, and I love that. Um, it's really cool, and I'm sure you're helping way more people than you even ever recognize.
I was determined. I was like, he's writing a book. I was like, I want to do that. He's gonna
Yeah,
teach me things. So yeah.
yeah, and I'll help however I can along the way. People help me, so I try to give back. Let's talk about that quick. Give us a little snippet of the book. Any ideas or how far along you are? What's it going to look like?
So my plan, my goal was to get it published this year. We are already in the third month and I haven't touched it this year at all. So I'm like, I don't know. What it's gonna look like is just a summary of my life experiences and the things I did to get through it. I think it's a tangible version for
Excuse me.
people to grasp onto, and I think I'm like, how do I word this? I want to do public speaking and I want to write the book. And if I do one, then I can do the other, right? They kind of go hand in hand. And that was kind of my goal. I don't know. I had a family member reach out last year, and when I did not respond in the way that they wanted, um, they got very gaslighty and abusive. And I was like, I'm a fucking adult. So I said, well, if you want to know about me, you can read the book. And it was kind of one of those like, all right, bet I'm a fucking adult. You're trying to hurt me. And so I'm going to do this for myself. And I'm going to take that little cherry on top, knowing it's going to bother you, and use it at that aha, fuck you moment because I did it for myself, but you told me I couldn't, sort of thing. So it's like
Mm.
a little amplifier of my own personal healing. Now, I don't know if that's healthy. A lot of people would probably be like, look into that, but I'm going to own the fact that it does make me feel good and just be transparent that that's a part of who I am too. I love the little cherry on top. Say I couldn't do it. So.
No, I mean that's like if you listen to LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, a lot of even big athletes, they say they're the best because resentments are good, but you're doing it in a positive way. They say like I'm sure you know Kobe Bryant. I mean, rest in peace. But they say he used to, and Michael Jordan, even when someone didn't say something bad about him on the other team in the championships, they would try to stir up some, as they call it today, some tea, and they would be like, "Yeah, they're talking bad about me," and that's what fueled them to be the best. Is that you need that competitive edge. So it'll help, and I can't wait to see the book. And I really don't push yourself because I started in 2020 and I published in 2023 of December. And even last year is the one year that I spent 80% of the nights till 2, 3 a.m. actually locked in writing the book and getting it edited and all that and published. But there were times I had to just step away. Like you got to feel it in your gut. God will give you that touch in your soul, and it's like get to type in, and then you'll lock it in.
Yeah, I think I got I got involved in trying different types of recovery and finding different recovery rooms. And as much time as that took, like I learned a lot. However, I wasn't putting that time into the thing that I ultimately wanted, which was the book. But you are right. Don't rush anything because it's about the journey. It's about the process. It's not about that end goal. And if I'm rushing it, I'm not going to enjoy it. And I want, like, this is my baby outside of my actual kids. So, yeah. Anyway, you're super inspiring. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And people help me along the way. So like I said, I'll help you whenever. Just reach out. So wrapping up the last 5 minutes here, want to hear a couple things you have to say. A couple questions we always ask at the end. One, for someone struggling today, what's a couple words that you want to say to them,
Mm,
or some things
it
that you
sounds
maybe needed to hear?
it sounds so cliche, but the first thing that comes to my mind is it does get better. And also when you're in that spot, like just hearing it does get better makes you want to punch him in the face. Uh, and another thing is don't give up. You made it through the things you thought that were going to kill you, you survived. So what else can happen that you could possibly think that could hurt you more than you've already experienced pain wise, right? Just
Mm,
do the thing, face the fear, because the end result is totally worth it. It's totally fucking worth it. Nothing else can take you out more than you took yourself out, and you survived all that. So just fucking face it and do it. Do the thing. And there's so much love and support, and it doesn't have to look pretty. It just do it. Like Nike.
like Nike, we love it. Who's some of your favorite podcasts or content creators on social media?
Ooh, okay. Podcast wise, I want to say Chasing Heroin was one of the biggest ones that helped me sober wise. And content creator wise, some of my favorite I'm trying to think. Sober Mo is one of my favorites. They're a good friend of mine. Narcan Nate's another good one. You're one of my favorites. I don't want your ego to get too big, so I'll just shove that on the side. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, it just depends. It depends the day. I got a lot of people that motivate me in different ways and bring different light and beauty to the world. So yeah.
awesome. What is the best advice you've ever heard, whether like sobriety or not? Something when you're having a rough day you hold on to.
Huh. Best piece of advice. Dang.
I know these stump everybody. You just never really, it's like it comes up in a hard time. But if it's something small, if advice you can give to someone else other than the last question, the other two questions ago.
Uh, I want to say like nobody cares. And it sounds weird, but like nobody. I've struggled with things internally, and at the end of the day, nobody cares. Like I'm weird and I'm autistic and I do these things, and at the end of the day, nobody else is looking at me being weird. Like nobody cares.
Yeah,
Just just keep going. Just keep going. I
well,
don't know.
it's important. No, I love it, dude. Follow your path. Don't let people sway you.
Yeah, follow
Yeah,
your heart and everything else will fall into place.
exactly. 100.
We'll take that one.
So, yeah. Well, Kelly, I thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, at Kellee, Kellee dot not dot Kelly, Kelly dot not dot Kelly at TikTok. Thank you so much for coming on. I
3.0,
appreciate it.
otherwise you'll get an old account.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 3.0 at the end.
Yeah.
Give her a follow. Keep an eye out for the book in the near future. I'll keep following your journey. I thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything with us.
Thank you
It's
so
been
much for the time.
No, it's been so cool. Can't wait to have you on in a future episode and check back in and talk about the book and see where life is at then.
I really hope so. That would be super cool.
It will. We'll stay on the journey. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. I'll still be following your journey. And everyone, if you need help, ask for help today. If you don't, share some love with someone and see how you can help someone else. Thank you
Thank
for
you.